the Monday, December 19th regular meeting of the Albion City Council. I'd ask you to, if you have a cell phone or any kind of mobile device that makes noises, to put it on silent. And I would like to ask the clerk to call this excuse me. I'd like to call the meeting to order, and I'd also like to right now ask you to join me in a moment of silence. Thank you. We'll now do the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Will the clerk call the roll?
Councilmember Barnes.
Here.
Reed. Here. Brown.
Here.
Lawler.
Here.
Spicer.
Here.
French.
Here.
And Mayor Brown.
Here. Are there any mayor or council member comments this evening? Councilmember Barnes.
Yes, we had a memorandum of understanding a little earlier today concerning a network grant proposal. And I just want the council to know that it was clearly just to attract the funding to start the talks into the healthcare system. I would hope that we could move forward with the Albion College, Star Commonwealth, Summit Point, the Brown Charitable Circle, the Village of Homer, and Calhoun County. I would hope that we would be on board to attract the grant. At any time we grab the grant, we start to talk with the rest of the region towards a healthcare facility. There's no closed door. It's just an opportunity to attract the money. The grant would come in, which would facilitate these different talks. Thank you.
Are there any other council member comments? Councilmember French.
Thank you, Mayor Brown. Just want to announce that the Ludington Center at 101 North Superior Street will formally be opened the Tuesday after Christmas. We'll be getting, I'll be getting security cards for the building on Thursday evening, and the college will be closed all next week. But I'll be in the building next week on Tuesday. Happy to have people come by. There'll be a formal tour and celebration of that building sometime at the end of January, early February, once Martin Luther King activities are completed and the students get a couple of weeks of class under their belt. But if you wanted a tour to come take a look at it, you're welcome to stop by. Thank you.
Are there any other comments from council this evening? Seeing none, we will move into presentations, and we'll start off with an update on the Bohm Theater. So, Mrs. Slater, if you just state your name and address.
Good evening. My name's Nancy Doyle, and I'm the Executive Director of the Bohm Theater. Oh, my address is 101 Irwin Avenue.
Okay.
Mary Slater, Chair of the Friends of the Board of Bohm Theater, 517 East Michigan Avenue.
Thank you.
Do you want me to start?
Sure.
Thanks, everybody, for having me, and I would like to extend a special thank you to Cheryl for inviting us. First time since I've met Cheryl, she introduced me, and we met, and she gave me the warmest smile, and every time I see her, she gives me a warm, sincere smile, and I thank you, no matter how our days are going. You know, it's always good to see you, Cheryl, so thank you for inviting us. I don't know if anybody knows this about me or if anybody really knows about my background, but I have worked for two cities. I've worked for the city of Roanoke Park, where I actually ran a performing arts center that was owned and operated by the city of Roanoke Park in California, and I also worked for the city of St. Pete Beach and ran a small performing art or visual arts facility in a historic facility for the city of St. Pete Beach. So in case anybody wonders why I'm a little nervous up here, it's been a while since I've had to do a presentation. But thank you all. And I would also like to thank Maurice. Maurice is a regular at my classics, so, you know, keep bringing people with you.
I'll do that, thank you.
So I just want to let everybody know, we seem to be on schedule with the BOEM 2. We are considering it a boutique theater. It's going to have 41 seats. Two sections are for handicap capability, so technically 39 seats. The front row has reclining seats, so they're considered VIP seats. Everything that we've seen so far looks really good. We're trying to duplicate as much in the historic BOEM as we are. We're going to have concessions over at the new facility, same popcorn popper. The screen is 17 feet by 10 feet, so it is a big screen. And it actually does seem a little bit bigger there than we once thought. So that's kind of how it's going. We are on track. I did get a little text from Randy that said we may have to push things back a week, so some of our dates are tentative, but we're looking forward to opening right around mid-February. January. You're right, thank you. I had written down here, Mary, December was all of the months that I wrote down here, my dates, and I had to scratch them out. If anybody has any questions, be happy to answer them right now.
Well, let me talk about finances first. And
Mary
that
will
might-
talk about finances.
Yeah, my little piece has to do with financing. We're overall thinking that the cost of the theater is around $450,000. We don't have exact figures yet. How did we raise this money? Many of you participated in the Patronicity crowdfunding event. See heads shaking. So our goal was $50,000. If we made $50,000, we were matched by Michigan Economic Development and Michigan Housing 100%. We actually raised $74,000. Now, they only match up to 50, but so we had 74 for crowd raising, 50 from the match. We also have 2 grants from Michigan Council for Arts and Cultural Affairs for $60,000 and $75,000 respectively. We also have a loan from the USDA Rural Development Corporation. We have a very low interest loan for a period of time. So we have enough money to cover the costs. That doesn't mean that we're debt-free. Our goals are to continue to raise money to cover the debts. So in terms of the main BOEM theater, we more or less break even with our main features. But the extra things that we have require sponsors, like the classic films, like the children's free matinees, and those kinds of things require sponsors. And so we continually look for that source of funding that comes from individuals and companies and corporations and so on. So we are a nonprofit, but we still have to cover expenses. And so there will be an invitation going, a special by invitation to the council to have a sort of pre-opening tour. Now questions.
Councilmember Lawler.
I think this is a good idea, and it shows that Albion is growing a little bit, moving forward. I just wanted to ask how did you come up with the idea of the second, what made you want to get the second
All right,
part?
so what we discovered when we open, sometimes you don't know these things till you get your foot in the door. What we discovered about the major BOEM theater, our major problem is the limitations put upon us by the distributors of the movies and the companies that produce the movies. For example, right now we have Rogue One, that's a Disney film. It's required that we show that movie 7 days a week for 4 weeks, and we cannot show anything else. Now, obviously, that doesn't make sense for a town like us, People have seen it already, by the time the 3rd week rolls around. But if we want to have that kind of movie, that's what we have to do. Now, different producers have different rules. That happens to be Disney's rule. So,
I would say most time, if you're trying to get a first-run feature, when it comes out in its first week and not wait till it's been out for 6 weeks, you are required from the studio to have it at least 3 weeks. So that is true. And it really, you are beholden to the distributor.
So one exception is before noon or after midnight. That's why the classic films are at 10
Yeah.
o'clock in the morning. And we have a kind of regular attendance, but we feel pretty confident that more people would come if it was at a different time. So this way, after a certain period of time, we can move our first run over.
Into the second one,
And do
yeah.
the or we can run documentaries, for example, which people would like to see, but probably not enough people to fill the 400-seat theater. But enough, so we can have a lot more alternative programming.
And I've been really thinking a lot about programming and how to do this into the future, and really, I mean, this is really a unique community to try to program for. You really want to have the first runs because, you know, those are their family-oriented films, and I can know in 2017, I've got Disney and Marvel coming out, so it's all action pictures and kids' movies. So we want to keep those in the big theater. Now, the smaller one, I'm thinking, well, maybe if I can get my audience to wait a few weeks till things come out, then I can turn around the product in there on a weekly basis. You may have to wait a little longer to see that movie. It might not come out that first week, but we'll be turning around the product in that second screen a little bit better. So that's kind of my attention, something that I've been thinking about. Hollywood is a very fickle business. Do not think for a moment that that business has not been around for 100 years. And they know what they're doing. You know, very often I've had people come up to me, oh, well, why can't I just see this movie and don't you just have it stored somewhere? No, God, that's not the way the business works. And that being said, without trying to educate everybody about Hollywood and the insanity that it is, I would be happy to meet with any of you at any time if you really want to hear the sordid details about Hollywood. I'm happy to speak about them. It's a crazy business. I don't understand sometimes in my own head why certain movies get greenlit and why other movies don't make it. I mean, I have friends that are filmmakers, so I understand it's a crazy, insane world.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Are there any other questions or comments from council? Well, I just want, if seeing, I guess if there aren't any, I guess I would say thank you all for the work you all are doing. I think it's a tremendous asset to the community, and you know, I actually was just down there on Saturday to see the film. So yeah, so thank you all, and I think you know, maybe we can finally, or I can finally have a chance to see, you know, when you watch the Academy Awards and they have the documentary category, and you say, well, I never saw.
Yeah.
You know, any of those, it'd be great if we could air some of those.
I'm going to do that this year. I'm going to bring some of
That would
those
be great.
things in.
Councilmember French.
Start a council film series.
So,
Weeks.
in case, and I know if nobody else cares, I know Maurice cares, and he's probably wondering what I have planned for January for my classics. And I decided that my January theme was going to be politics as usual, a Hollywood peek at politics through the years. And I am going to program Mr. Smith Goes to Washington, State of the Union with Spencer Tracy and Katharine Hepburn. Then I'm bringing back All the President's Men, because let's all remember that. I'm old enough. And then my classics are not as old as you think. I'm going to show Wag the Dog, another personal favorite.
Okay.
So let's all join us and politics as usual.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mayor Brown.
Next, we'd like to introduce Public Safety Officer Dan Riley.
Chief Scott Kitt from Albion Public Safety. Introduce our new officer, Officer Dan Riley. He just graduated from the Lansing Community College Police Academy last week. He's originally from Concord, Michigan, where he went to high school. He's the fire chief at Pulaski Township. And so he's replacing Kurt Swope, who was the fire chief in Homer, who we lost back in August to Marshall Fire Department. So we're excited to have Dan here, and our clerk is going to do the oath of office for him, and so.
I, Dan Riley,
I, Dan Riley,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support
that I will support
the Constitution
the Constitution
of the United States
of the United States
and of this state,
and of the state,
and that I will,
and that I will,
to the best of my ability,
to the best of my abilities,
faithfully and impartially,
faithfully and impartially,
discharge the duties
discharge the duties
of Albion Public Safety
of
Officer.
Albion Public Safety Officer.
So help me God.
So help me God.
His son Connor's here, and he's going to pin his badge on for him, so.
Oh dear.
All
Your
right.
vest on?
Right.
Yep.
All right, Connor. He's gonna do great. Yes, he is. Son and daughter. Good. That's special.
Say ow. You can do it, Connor.
Yeah. They're hard to go in there. There you got it.
Good job.
All right.
Welcome aboard.
Good job.
Welcome. We're glad to have you on what our city manager has termed Team Albion. So welcome to Albion and look forward to working with you. So thank you. At this time, we'll have an update on the SAW grant and MEDC special legislative grant. Good evening.
Good evening. My name is Alan Gelderloos. I'm with Fleece and Vandenbrink. I work with Jeff Wingard, who's given an update to the council. I want to thank you, Mr. Mayor, and the council for allowing us to talk just briefly tonight about the work we're doing on two grants for the city of Albion. The first is the SAW grant, and that's a 2.5 year grant that we're working on. And we have been working on it with Jim Leonardson from the wastewater treatment plant as well. And through that effort, we've been able to identify capital improvement projects at the plant, nearly $10 million worth of improvements at the plant over a 10-year period that have been identified. And through the work then of Cheryl Mitchell, you received a special legislative grant of $950,000 specifically to address the high priority projects, two high priority projects at the wastewater treatment plant. One to do with the primary clarifier and another to do, or basically it was just to do with the primary clarifier, but through efficient management and planning, we included the Headworks project as well.
You said clarifier, can you explain what that is for the public?
Yeah, the primary clarifier is the first process really that treats the wastewater at the wastewater treatment plant. It settles the heavy solids out of the wastewater after it's pumped into the plant. The next process is secondary treatment, and that's where there's biological activity to break down the organic material before it then gets disinfected and goes out to the river. So that's your wastewater treatment in a nutshell.
Thank you.
Right there. So just wanted to, we are going to be doing some design work as part of the special legislative grant, and that's going to be, I guess, approved here at the meeting later on. That's the $176,000 worth of work that we're going to be doing. The design work that we're going to be doing, you know, to address some of these issues, like the primary clarifier that the MDEQ has cited as an issue, address the concrete there. There were some pictures that were provided with the information that you should have. And so, and there's some other pumps at the plant that have basically worn out, basically fell apart when the maintenance staff tried to fix them. So we're addressing those issues at the plant and a couple of other issues. So as part of the SAW grant work, we have performed an asset inventory equipment replacement costs, and condition assessment of all the equipment at the plant. Like I said, we developed a 10-year capital improvement plan for the plant. We updated an O&M manual, which is something that the MDEQ was asking the plant staff to update. So we were able to do that under the SAW grant. We're also providing operations assistance to the chief operator, and also cleaned out the primary digester, which is a process that helps to reduce the amount of solids that have to be disposed of from the plant. So that was something that was done under the SAW grant, which would have had to be done under the general fund, I assume. So that was about a $20,000 savings that was being able to be done under this grant. So that in a nutshell is kind of an update on both of the grant activities that we're working on for the city of Albion.
Thank you. Are there any council questions, comments, or concerns? Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Next on the agenda, under presentations, agenda item D, presentation on the Rural Health Network proposal. Mr. Williamson.
I'm back. Good evening, council. Thank you again for hosting me this evening for a special work session where we got to have a conversation about the Rural Healthcare Access Planning Grant for a network of healthcare providers in the greater Albion, Eastern Calhoun County area. I won't bore everyone again with the details since we went so freshly through them, but I'll, for the sake of the public, this grant is being pursued by Star Commonwealth and a group of partners, including Summit Point, Oakland Hospital, the city, Village of Homer, hopefully with the support of the City of Albion tonight as well, and a few others, a planning grant designed to help healthcare providers and payer sources of healthcare in the community to provide a network to make sure that we're covering care coordination gaps in the community at large. So just for example, we want to address any number of health issues that plague the community, but something like access to primary care leads to less people going to the ER. Those are types of care coordination things that we're trying to address. I would again entertain any questions from the council, and I hope that we can gain your support tonight to at least begin this very important conversation to the City of Albion and its surrounding friends and partners.
Are there any comments or questions or concerns? Okay. Seeing none, thank you. At this time, we'd have citizens' comments. Persons addressing the city shall limit their comments to agenda items only. And for no more than 5 minutes, we ask for proper protocol and decorum. So if there are any citizens' comments on agenda items, if you'd please come forward, state your name, and give your address. Okay. Seeing none, we'll move on to consent calendar, and we'll do these all together, A, B, and C. Do I have a motion to approve the items listed under consent, the consent calendar?
So support.
There's a motion and a support. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Okay. We will now move on to items for individual discussion. Agenda item A, request approval, resolution 2016-68, adopting the City of Albion Comprehensive Plan, Phase 1. There's a moved and supported. Before we start discussion, I'd like to ask the city manager to kind of bring us up to date on the status of that.
Okay, Mayor and Council, as you are aware, the Planning Commission has been working for several months in conjunction with consultant Rosalind Jones for the preparation of the Comprehensive Master Plan Phase 1. There were a number of community and citizen input, either forums or questionnaires, as well as we asked the council for your feedback, and we had the special work session last Monday, in fact, where there were some comments that we received, and those have been incorporated into the document. So what you have before you identifies the 11 goals and objectives of Phase 1. This is the starting point of our planning going forward. It's a pretty in-depth document, but it also has benchmarks in terms of performance as well as some time parameters. So it's not just a document that sits on the shelf, it is definitely a living document that will help guide our actions going forward. The next phase will be looking at our zoning and the maps and plans associated with where we want various items located, such as industrial redevelopment or housing.
Discussion, any questions, comments, or concerns from council regarding the the comprehensive plan? Councilmember Brown.
Yeah, I know a lot of work and time went into this plan, and it's much needed regarding the vision of Albion and where we want to see Albion in the future. So happy to have this phase before us.
Any other comments, questions, or concerns? Okay, seeing none, I'd like to ask for a roll call vote.
Councilmember Reed? Yes. Brown?
Yes.
Lawler?
Yes.
Spicer?
Yes.
French?
Yes.
Barnes?
Yes.
And Mayor Brown.
Yes. Agenda item B, request approval, resolution 2016-72, approve 2016 budget amendments, and
So moved.
is there support?
Support.
Moved and supported. We'll have discussion, and again, I'll let the city manager provide some background.
This is the annual action that the council takes relative to the current year's fiscal year budget, so that's fiscal year 2016. And we are required to have a balanced budget, so what this reflects are those items that need to be amended in order to either reflect changes in revenues or appropriations in regards to the 2016 budget year.
We probably should do these two as separate votes for the resolution under it for 73.
Yes.
Yeah, okay. So, are there any other questions, comments, or concerns from council? Okay. Seeing none, I'd like to ask for a roll call vote.
Councilmember Brown?
Yes.
Lawler?
Yes.
Spicer?
Yes.
French?
Yes.
Barnes?
Yes.
Reed? And Mayor Brown.
Yes. Now, I guess, agenda item B.1, I guess subsection 1. Request approval resolution 2016-73, approve amendment to 2016 budget to meet debt service requirement.
So moved.
Motion. Have a motion.
Support.
Motion and support. We'll have discussion, and I'll ask the manager to explain.
Okay, this one is also related to your prior motion. However, in order to reconcile the debt payments for the general energy bond, we needed to have the amount of resources going into it balanced. And we didn't reflect that in the proposed amendments to the budget as you were seeing them and as was presented at the public hearing. So this is just cleaning that up.
Any questions, comments, or concerns from council regarding this resolution?
And it has no impact on the ending fund balance for that fund.
Okay. Seeing none, I'd like to ask for a roll call vote.
Councilmember Lawler?
Yes.
Spicer?
Yes.
French?
Yes.
Barnes?
Yes.
Reed? Brown?
Yes.
And Mayor Brown.
Yes. Agenda item C, request approval resolution number 2016-74, fiscal year 2017 budget appropriations. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Support.
Moved and supported. Again, city manager, if you'd like to
Okay.
have comments.
I don't know how much detail you want me to go into this. I can do it in 2 minutes or 2 hours.
2 minutes.
Okay, all right. Okay, what you have in front of you and what we have discussed for the past several weeks have been all of the funds for the city of Albion relative to the general fund, the special revenue funds, debt service funds, enterprise funds, internal service funds, other funds, and trust funds. The total for all funds in terms of revenues is $13,422,563. Expenditures are $13,855,327. $13,855,327. One thing I do want to take special note, however, is in regards to our millage rate. We did overall receive a reduction in our total mills that our homestead and non-homestead taxpayers will be experiencing, of a reduction of 3.84 mills. So I do want to point that out to you, and if you have any questions, I'll gladly respond to those in more detail.
Councilmember French.
Thank you, Mayor. So if we're losing 3.84 mils, does that mean that we're now below the maximum that we're allowed to vote on without seeking?
Well, that's not our local mills, that's actually related to the school district.
Oh, the school district
Yes.
mills, thank you.
He was talking about Headley, the Headley amendment.
I would have to defer to
Yeah.
Tom Mead on.
Oh, if it's the school, then it's not,
Yeah, it's not.
yeah, it's not that.
Yeah.
Okay, I
No,
don't
we're
think it
good,
was an
we're
impact.
good, thank you.
Are there any other questions, comments, or concerns on the budget for 2017? I'd like to thank the manager, the finance director, and the staff for putting the budget together, and, you know, even at the late date, we got through it, and I appreciate that. And we were able to not have to dip into fund balance for general fund too much, so I think that's a success as well. So with that, I'd like to ask for a roll call vote.
Councilmember Spicer,
Yes.
French,
Yes.
Barnes,
Yes.
Reed, Brown,
Yes.
Lawler,
Yes.
and Mayor Brown.
Yes. Agenda item D, request approval, resolution 2016-75, a resolution supporting the Peabody project.
So
Is there,
moved.
there's a motion,
Support.
moved and supported. I'd like to, if you'd like to have, would you like to have any comments regarding the project? Yeah.
Glad to answer any questions that you may have. The comments that I would have at this point are, the process is moving forward. We have received back some initial pricing from contractors that are involved, or could be involved in the project, depending on the owner's selections. Pricing came back a little higher than we thought, but still something that we can work on. Bank financing is, if everything goes well tonight, bank financing is all but secured. Owner contribution is secured. We will be asking the city, if this works out for you tonight, to bring MEDC to town, and we'll make a nice presentation and show them a wonderful project to consider.
Okay. Councilmember Lawler?
Yes, I think this is a awesome project. The Dobbins may not know me, but I know their daughter. Our kids went to school together. They're at high school and Albion College. Could you, I've had some questions asked about the shared taxes. Could you explain it to the public the same way you explained it to me in the DDA meeting?
Certainly. The fact that you have a facade program within your DDA is a unique capacity for the Dobbins, in this case, to, instead of ask for an OPRA or a full tax capture for up to 12 years to make the project work, to work in with a shared scenario with the DDA. So currently, if your taxes are at $1, and I'm just going to use very rudimentary numbers, we won't touch that. If it goes to $3, we would ask for there to be a sharing, which we would negotiate based on the financial pro forma after the actual prices are in. But the sharing would be to where we would accept the least amount of money that we possibly could, so that the bank would lend their sizable chunk and that MEDC would say that's fair. We aren't looking for anything more, and we're not looking for what would traditionally be, give me 12 years of all your taxes that you would be gaining over and above what you're currently getting. But that's kind of the best facet of this idea, is that we won't ever touch any funds that you currently hold, and you will be getting immediately more funds than you had if you didn't do the project.
Thank you. It's very helpful when I'm being asked about it, and I couldn't explain it better than you explained it to me, so thank you.
You're welcome.
Are there any other questions, comments, or concerns from council?
I don't have a
Councilmember
question, just a comment. This seems like an awesome project, and I support it. I want to thank you and Dr. Dobbins for the transparency. You've kept us well informed. You've been willing to answer every question we've had, and I feel very comfortable that I know what's going on. And I thank you for
Thank you.
that.
Thank you. It's the way it should be.
And for the sake of the minutes, could you repeat your name?
Bruce Johnston, I'm the owner of Revitalize LLC.
Thank you. Are there any other comments from council? Okay. Seeing none, I'd like to ask for a roll call vote.
Councilmember French.
Yes.
Barnes.
Yes.
Reed. Yes. Brown.
Yes.
Lawler.
Yes.
Spicer.
Yes.
And Mayor Brown.
Yes, congratulations. Agenda item E, request approval resolution 2016-76, approval to retain additional services of Fleece and Vanderbrink for engineering work for the special legislative / MEDC grant at the wastewater treatment plant.
So moved.
There's I guess
Support.
moved and supported. We'll now have a discussion. We just heard from the firm. Are there any additional questions, comments, or concerns? Okay. Seeing none, I'd like to ask for a roll call vote.
Councilmember Barnes.
Yes.
Reed. Brown.
Yes.
Lawler.
Yes.
Spicer.
Yes.
French.
Yes.
And Mayor Brown.
Yes. Thank you. Agenda item F, request approval resolution 2016-77, a resolution supporting the Rural Health Network grant proposal and memorandum of agreement. Moved and supported. Are there any discussion from the council? Councilmember Barnes.
Yes, during our earlier study session, I felt there was some ambiguous thinking, maybe some trepidation on the part of our council, and I want to attempt to be a voice of reason. This grant is just to promote the planning and development of a health care network. It's not the building blocks to it per se. It's trying to bring the different entities in our region to the table to discuss how we would want to move forward. This initiative is based on a community survey, and that survey felt that the east side of the county was underserved by the existing resources. This grant gives us the ability to develop and entertain certain ideas and concepts to provide higher quality and more accessible health care. At any time, in this planning stage, amendments and addendums could be added. I'm asking this council to support this beginning stage of communication for the best interest of the city of Albion and the region. I feel if we do not support this, it could be seen that, you know, we're not acting in good faith for the best interest of Albion in the healthcare system. And in essence, if we do not get on board, they will surely move forward without us, and that's not a picture we want to paint with something that the citizens have stated they're asking. I'm going to say this one more time. It's just attracting the grant money so we can facilitate the planning and preparation of talking about creating a health system.
Councilmember French.
I have simply a suggestion on add a few words to this memo of understanding. On page 2, item 1, the parties agree to continue discussions about collaborative efforts centered on developing a centrally located health clinic in the Washington Gardner Building in Albion, and would focus on providing a variety of healthcare services, and this is where I want to change, both to Albion College students, faculty, and staff, and the greater Albion and Homer areas. So just comment that the total employment in Albion is in excess of 300, and there are only 100 faculty. So there are far more staff than faculty at the college, and we need to recognize that an awful lot more of our staff live in Albion and would take advantage of these services as well. So I would consider that a friendly amendment to the MOU. And Shane, do I Thank you.
If we amend it with the other parties, what I'm saying with the other parties have to agree with it.
Yes, because I mean, I guess, the short answer to your question is yes. I mean, it's not really a substantive change, so I don't foresee an issue with it, but yeah, I mean, technically yes, because it is an alteration to the memo.
So is that a motion? Okay, so is there a support for the motion? Okay. So there's no second to the motion, so the motion fails. Are there any other questions or comments from council? Oh,
Just a brief
Councilmember
comment,
Brown.
I'm sorry. We spent about 45 minutes in a work session prior to the 7 o'clock meeting discussing this grant. And the concern, and I can only speak for myself, is that the conversations have started and specific people have been invited to the table, the grant's written. One thing I want us to think about as we move forward in Albion is how do we make decisions in the most inclusive way possible? The concern is that specific people are at the table and specific entities have been left off. So everyone here knows we need health care here in Albion, urgent care. And I think everyone can agree that we need that. Again, my concern is that when you talk about a network of healthcare providers, we have more than one or two. And I know there was an offer to invite other facilities to the table, but my concern with that is here we are in the 11th hour, and this grant is due on January 3rd, and it has already been written. So just for the sake of transparency, those are my thoughts, my concerns, and that's where I am.
Councilmember Spicer.
Thank you, Mayor. I just want to reiterate again that in my run for this seat to represent the people of the 5th Precinct, one of my priorities was exploring that possibility of having an urgent care after our facility here at Albion. And so this is topic and issue is near and dear to my heart. So it's not something that I take lightly when I say that, and I just don't, where things are right now, they just, it just does not sit well with me because I feel like we're being rushed to make a decision at this point. And I'm not comfortable with being rushed to make such a major decision without having everyone that or could be involved. I think that there are more organizations and entities that could be involved or should be asked to be involved and given the opportunity to decline involvement. And like it was stated that they could be involved later and that they would invite them, but I want them to be involved and invited right now. And I've also stated that I love what you say, I like what you say, but I love what I see in black and white. So what I see in black and white doesn't sit well with me. I can't go for it. So that is my position. I love this idea and I really want it to come to fruition, but I think we have to start with everyone involved from the beginning. Thank you, Mayor.
Are there any other, Councilmember Barnes?
I'd like to defer to our city manager. I want her to speak for herself on her attendance to the meeting, that she had information concerning this situation. However, I must state one more time, this is a grant to attract the money just to begin the talks. just the ground floor, bringing the money in to facilitate the communication, the strategy to move forward. It's not to alienate anyone. It's still an inviting situation. They're just trying to get the grant money to use it to help them move forward.
Are there any other, Councilmember Lawler?
Yes, I, just wanna kinda, piggyback off of, Ms. Spicer, that, I feel rushed in kinda making this decision. I know Councilmember Barnes said there was a survey that went out to the public, correct me if I'm wrong, about doing this specific thing, and I never got, a survey about it. Of course, we all do want urgent care. I think that is a priority that Albion needs to, get on board with. But with making a rushed decision, conversations had been started a long time ago, and, it just really doesn't quite, sit right with me. Even if you do decide to go on and we, possibly say no, I'm not saying that we will say no, but, it's just, getting the people involved. And there are people here that, use other, facilities for healthcare. And, there are people here that are familiar with, a healthcare facility that I don't see in this paperwork. So I just want, my people in Albion to have, everybody that they possibly could come to the table and let the citizens know what they can do for them. Not just one entity, but a couple entities, and if they you did invite them to come to the table and they didn't, okay, that's just one attempt. I'd like to see another attempt, to try to get get other entities on board. And that's just, how I feel about it.
Councilmember French?
So to piggyback on some of the comments heard earlier, when I invite my extended family to my house, and we're gonna have Thanksgiving dinner, I have to set 2 tables. And one of the tables I built myself. Who comes to the table doesn't get an opinion about what table they sit at. They're sitting at a table, and they're happy to be at that table. I see this planning grant as the making of a table around which we can have conversations about delivering health care to the city of Albion. I have the utmost trust in all of the people, whether it be the Battle Creek Foundation or Oaklawn Hospital or Shane Williamson or the college or any of the entities listed in this MOU, that they will invite any and all interested parties. We have asked them to consider that when we, in our earlier discussion. But to turn our backs on $100,000 of planning grant money, I see as hard, because there is no other money that's as easily found as this. And so we could go look for another planning grant, but that puts us behind another 6 months or 3 months or a year. And so I would just encourage us to help expedite a planning process. Let's build the table. We can insist that we would expect regular checkups, that we would see the final draft of the proposal. But if we don't say yes tonight, then the proposal goes away, and we are throwing away $100,000 to plan for the healthcare future of our city and to invite other entities to that table. We picked I'm sure, Shane, that we picked low-hanging fruit, folks that were in the immediate vicinity with whom people had worked with. But that does not, as the planning grant says, it is not a closed door. It is not a closed table. We can invite more people to the table. So I would encourage us to support this planning grant, but then in the interest of transparency, see the grant proposal in its final state, receive updates throughout the planning year to make sure, because they would have to come back to us to approve the big $1 million grant to provide the next phase of whatever the decision is made from that planning grant. we get another decision. And if the decision is not one that we're comfortable with, we can say no. But I would encourage us to support a planning grant to get the ball rolling. Thank you.
Are there any other council comments? If not, I'll have comments. I just want to make sure anyone else.
I got one more.
Councilmember Barnes.
We also have to recognize, they're inviting us in. The grant called for, I think, 3 or more people to be eligible for this grant. And they included us in, and I'm really trying to relate to you that they can move forward without us, and we would be back at a starting point of 0. It just would not sit well with the citizens if we do not allow the $100,000 to come to the table and we be involved in the planning. And we still have options at the table. Thank you.
So I guess the understanding I had was that the purpose of pursuing the grant was to basically partner with interested parties to basically, you know, right, like Councilmember French said, to seek, to plan, to see what's possible. But if you do an initial plan, I would think that you would include, I guess, another system that is servicing citizens. And so my understanding, just to clarify, is, I mean, there was an invite for the college's proposal, but there wasn't an invite for the grant. So I want to make sure we're clear on that. There wasn't an invite for the grant. There was an invite from the college for proposals, but there wasn't an invite to.
The proposal you see before you that was sent by Oaklawn to the college predates the request for
But I'm saying that,
proposals.
but that's separate from the grant. So there was no.
That's correct.
Yes, there was no invite to the other system to participate.
Wait. There was no other invite to what system, to participate in what?
There, I guess for the signatories, right? There are.
That's a Shane Williamson question.
Yeah.
That's not a question for me.
Well, what I'm saying is that, if I understood you correctly during the presentation, there was Bronson, Borges, Henry Ford, Allegiance weren't invited.
There was no specific invitation sent to any healthcare agency. This kind of was born out of conversations between partners already doing work together.
Okay. So.
Not excluding Henry Ford, they just weren't already at the table.
Okay. So, yeah, I appreciate that. So I think, but that is a concern of mine, is to make sure that, that they're included in a planning stage. And I guess the other concern I have, which I guess I wasn't fully made clear of, is if one system's involved and they're involved in the planning and a plan is created, and then I guess the larger grant is pursued in a way that could potentially, they could be the recipient of that as a health system provider, without the inclusion of another health system, is concerning. I think one of the components of, I guess, being an elected official is making sure that to I guess the extent possible, we do our research, that we're transparent, and that we make sure that we have explored all options. I think that's also why, for example, when the city goes out for bids, the whole bidding process is there to make sure that things are done in a fair way. And so I think that while this is not a bid, I think if the premise is to have people who are interested in providing quality health care in Albion, then I guess every entity that is involved in that should be involved in this process. And that's not reflected, so. Councilmember French.
Again, I'll go back to my analogy that when Shane can speak to this, probably should speak to this. The idea is that we want a planning grant, and once we have the planning grant, we will have staff and resources to bring about an investigation of the possibilities. And the request for proposals is my understanding that you needed to find at least 3 organizations, entities in the healthcare field in order to even apply. So conversations with healthcare providers who were already in discussions with various entities were invited, as was the city of Albion. So it was by no means an exhaustive list, from what I heard. Yeah, Shane, if you want to comment.
Am I allowed to comment?
Oh, absolutely.
Please.
Oh, okay, thank you. So just to clear up some of the confusion, the main, and I know that there's confusion about people who are outside of Calhoun County who have not, major healthcare systems, one in particular that has a clinic here in Albion. We went by healthcare systems that are primarily serving the residents of Albion and the greater Albion area in a majority fashion, again, going along main healthcare provider service lines. Currently, Oakland Hospital is the primary care for most of the population in Eastern Calhoun County, and it also represents most of their economic investment in Eastern Calhoun County, recently with the dialysis center in Albion, the opening of their clinic in Homer, et cetera. One thing that if Elizabeth Carey, my CEO, is watching, would be disappointing for me to mention if I didn't, would be that this network is not a closed network. This is a formative network. This $100,000 is coming to our community, specifically to Star Commonwealth as a fiduciary, to support the conversation around healthcare in the greater Albion area. We want to talk about things like, how do we make sure that low-income populations without transportation get to primary and emergency care? How do we manage chronic conditions in the community? How do we get teen pregnancy rates down? How do we address behavioral health care co-located with physical health care? This money pays for us to have that conversation so that professionals can spend their time around the table and really think about those major issues in our community. This is by no means exclusive. If this council tonight wants to suggest and empower the representative, who we're asking would be the city manager, to make sure that other entities are to the table, Star Commonwealth is absolutely on board with that request, and we have been from the very beginning. These conversations around these grants always start with your closest people to you, with your closest entities to you, with the people you run with the groups that you associate with. Star Commonwealth, again, having served in Albion for over 140 years, has developed relationships with Summit Point. They pay us to do behavioral health care. We provide behavioral health care in Albion. Oakland Hospital has provided health care to our residents on our campus for a long time. They've provided it to Albion College. Albion College and Star Commonwealth have been long friends in doing business with each other in the Albion area. So it was very comfortable to have this initial conversation and begin the process of getting these resources to the community. These are federal resources. They have to be reported on down to the penny. We're beholden to the federal government. And also to the stakeholders who choose to support this money. When you support this grant, you support your stake at the table and making sure that the conversation happens in a way that you want it to have. I really am asking for you to support this grant tonight and to have your seat at this big table around healthcare and make sure that we start having the very hard, very awesome conversations about what we can do with healthcare and be innovative in our community. I know that there's concern about exclusivity. Please know that you can direct your representative and make it a part of this agreement that you move forward in making sure that we reach out to all of the entities serving in Albion. Again, there are not very many that are left off. I think you're thinking of one in particular, Henry Ford Health System, that is not part of the conversation. If you're unfamiliar with what Henry Ford Healthcare Systems, they will make themselves available at the table. They've been very aggressive in their expansion. So again, we are not opposed to any more additional partners. In fact, the grant requires that we grow and mature this network, and what would a network be without every provider at the table? So I hope that you can see the spirit that this grant is written in. I hope that you can see the positive things that can bring to Albion. I think you know that any resource brought back to the local level is an important resource, and that we can really do great things with it. And I would let you know that not only do we report to the government, we report back to you, and we would be glad And I think Cheryl Mitchell would agree, as city manager, she would be glad to report to you on behalf of what's going on at the network, and that this is in no way trying to subvert the authority or power of the city council.
I have one question, and I'm
Sure.
surprised, and forgive me for not asking this in, I guess, the previous session.
No.
So, the $100,000, and this is just for public, I know it's a televised meeting. How is it going to be used? Because, I mean, someone might say, well, $100,000 to make a plan.
Yeah, it sounds like a lot of money, and it's not. So part of the funds go to pay for actually having the space, so renting out spaces to have meetings, to meet with the public, to talk, to have the various entities come together. It also pays for a person, a network director of sorts, to actually coordinate this work. So we're sparing a professional out of their time to do this work, and so we need to pay that person's wage. So for the entire year, we would have a network director dedicated to coordinating these meetings, talking about strategic planning, growing the network. Like any executive director of any network, you're always seeking to fill your board with awesome individuals and supporters of your organization, and that network director would be helpful and required to do a lot of that work. The network representatives are not actually, Star Commonwealth is receiving a majority of the funds, so we will pay those folks. We are providing operating overheads, so computers and office space. I believe we have travel built in there because there's a federal requirement that this person travel to a conference. There are going to be 25 of these grants made nationwide. So this community could be one of only 25 communities in the country receiving this money to start this plan. And they are all required to attend a conference in Washington, D.C., where they will talk about, well, what are other communities doing? What are some best practices in this field? And then bring it back to Albion and work it through the network.
So
I don't have the exact, so I don't have it in front of me, so I don't have the exact, but there's travel, yeah.
The budget was included in the packet.
Yeah.
Oh, is it up here?
Yeah, it's in the packet.
Okay, great. It's all broken down. You can see that there are indirect expenses, those are office-related expenses to facilitate this. There are direct costs, which are the people, the places, the supplies. If there's a budget in there around printing and office supplies. So if there's a strategic plan put together, how do we get that strategic plan out to the community, right? Like, okay, this is what all of the entities who have been around the table have been talking about for a year. There is money there to make sure that we can actually print that, make it available via many sources, that way many other people can see it and have input on it.
So, and you mentioned that there would be some kind of staffing arrangement for that position.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And can you make that clear?
Okay, yes, there is. So, tentatively, again, this is all, approval, and if Dr. Levin would like to actually contract with us, but we would contract with the assistant city manager to facilitate as the network director for the year. So we would be covering, we would be covering her costs.
Which is new to me, so, yeah.
So there has been, so the assistant, am I speaking out? I'm not speaking out of turn, right? Okay, I just want to make sure I got this all right in my head. We've been swimming in this world for a week or two now. Okay, so the assistant city manager, Dr. Stacy Levin, we had written into the grant, and why this is so important to bring to council, that we be able to pay for a portion of her time to be devoted to being the network director. So she would support this grant by facilitating all these conversations, bringing partners to the table. And this, again, I think was a carrot and also a really good incentive for the city to have a stake in this particular grant, because we were saying not only is the city of Albion's support critical, but we need to have the city of Albion doing this work. And so as such, Star Commonwealth, while we are the fiduciary and we understand that everybody, everyone's trying to clamor for funds, we understood that it was important that we make those funds available to other partners. So the city being able to provide us with someone to run this network for a year, or run the planning of this network for a year, was an incredible partnership that we could develop. And so when you're applying for this, when you're approving this or not approving this, there is some of that at stake. We would really love to have the city on board with this grant to get this moving, and a central player.
Thank you. I appreciate you for coming and speaking. If the council members have any other comments? Okay, so I guess I'll wrap it up and say that, you know, I've thought about it, and I guess to explain how I'm going to vote, one of the things, you know, I've served on council for 6 years, and one of the things that that I've always had a concern with is kind of like council being asked to either approve ordinances or grants or things at the last minute. So that's always been a concern. I think part of it too is, you know, the staffing thing was new to me. So I that's the first time I was made aware of that. And I think that the other concern is that with the city going forward, I think it's always important to make sure that we're as open as possible and that we have all stakeholders at the table so that the residents can have the best possible choices. And I think that's something that's concerning me. So unfortunately, I think that the way it came about was unfortunate. So I just feel that going forward, we need to make sure that we cover all our bases and that we include everyone, because that's really how the community is going to be successful. And so with that said, if there are no other comments, I'd like to ask for a roll call vote.
Councilmember Reed? No. Brown?
No.
Lawler?
No.
Spicer?
No.
French?
Yes.
Barnes?
Yes.
And Mayor Brown?
No. Agenda item G, request approval amendment, the Albion Trust Agreement. Is there a
So
motion?
moved.
Moved. Is there support?
Support.
Moved and supported. Are there any discussions? Are there any questions or comments from council? Okay, so one of the questions that I have with the trust is that it existed for 20 years. We had the conversation. I would like to ask or request the manager and attorney to provide, to reach out and maybe provide some, if it takes either a bond attorney or something like that, to look into that. Because one of the things that, you know, I'm a person who, I'm pretty thorough with things, but I think the work session that we had with Chuck Robinson wasn't extremely clear, and I want to make sure that we are doing, making the best possible decision with this. If this is not a common practice with other municipalities, so I would entertain a motion to continue it, to just extend it for another month, and then to look and see if we could have some expertise on that, because I think that's really important if we're being asked to vote on something that's going to perhaps outlast all of our terms on here. So that would be, you know, if someone wanted to make a motion, that's okay. Go ahead.
What I would say, Mayor Brown, is that several months ago, I did reach out through the Michigan Association of Municipal Attorneys, which includes several bond attorneys, and they were not responsive as it relates to this. I think the way, at least what I took away from my conversation with Chuck Robinson, both during and after the meeting, is that I think this was more common 20 years ago. I don't think it's completely gone the way of the dodo, but you just don't see it as much anymore. And I think that's the circumstance that we're faced with. Not that there's anything, not that there's any legal issue with the way that it's structured, but rather it's just, it was something that perhaps was more common in years past. But, I mean, I have reached out to other attorneys that did, and aside from the Michigan Association of Municipal Attorneys, which, there's very few municipality, city attorneys and township attorneys that don't belong to that, but I've also checked with, the other municipalities that I represent, and I did talk with somebody that deals with investments, and he said, that it's not frequent that he sees these, but he has seen them particularly in the context when municipalities have bonds and are intending on adding additional bonds when there are staggered maturity terms for various bonds is when he's seen them, which is the case that we have here. So I guess what I'm saying is I'm happy to, if you want me to talk to more attorneys, but I just want you to be aware that we've done that, or attempted to do that.
Okay. If, what I guess I'm asking is if we could do that in a formal way, because I know the city does have, for example, when it comes to contract negotiations with the unions, we rely on attorney, is it Fanning, to do the labor work. So I don't think we have a designated like bond attorney, but I'd like to be, I'd like to be in the best possible decision to make that, because basically it will be irrevocable. And like I said, it's going to, it's going to surpass probably any of our terms on council. So, so I would, if a council member would be willing to do that, I would ask for a motion just to extend the current trust for another month. So.
So moved.
It's a motion. Is there support?
I support that. They have a
Moved and supported. Councilmember.
You have to take our motion off the table first.
Oh, okay.
They have a motion.
Do we want a roll call on the, or do, that was moved, so would you like to go through with the vote?
I want to vote on it.
Okay,
I do not share your concern.
okay. If there are no other discussions, we'll have a motion, a vote on, approving the, trust agreement revised, that was included in the packet.
Councilmember Brown?
I have a question.
Oh.
Can I not do that?
Yeah.
Well, is it regarding the first motion?
About approving this trust.
Okay, go ahead.
We're not, okay, so if we want more if we vote this trust down, what happens?
What I'm
This agreement.
what I was asking, because I can't make motions, is to at least extend it as we've done probably the past two times,
Okay.
to give the manager and the attorney time to.
So what I'm saying is there's a motion right now on the table. We're voting to approve this agreement.
Yes.
So,
So if you
We
vote
vote not to
yes,
do that
if
and
you
then
vote
vote-
yes, you're voting yes to the revised agreement. If you vote no, you're voting no to the revised agreement.
okay, I'm ready.
No other comments? If you do roll call, I'm sorry.
Yes?
Councilmember Brown?
No?
Lawler?
No.
Spicer?
No.
French?
Yes.
Barnes?
Yes.
Behave.
Reed? And Mayor Brown?
No. There was a motion from Councilmember Spicer, seconded by
Yes.
I second
Councilmember
that.
Brown, to just extend it for a month and to charge the manager and attorney with, I guess, pursuing the expertise of a bond attorney to provide us counsel on other ways of handling this, because, like I said, if, I understand what you're saying, that we've reached out to people on the listserv, but we still can ask for professional legal advice to make a decision that's going to be, once we approve it, we can't undo it, so,
Question?
yes, Councilmember
Can I ask
Spicer.
a question?
Yes.
With the advice that we're gonna be seeking, would that be in writing? Will we get that in writing for the next month as to what direction we should go with this trust?
I would prefer that. I mean, usually when we receive, you know, legal advice from the attorney, we receive it in a
Okay, because I'd like to.
memorandum format, so.
Gotcha.
Any other
Mayor,
Councilmember Lawler?
Okay, just to, be clear, on what I'm doing, this is to extend for 30 days to have more than just one suggestion of what to do with the trust?
Yeah.
Okay.
Are there any other comments or questions or concerns? Okay, roll call vote, please.
Dr. Mitchell.
Oh, I'm sorry. Please forgive me. Sorry.
I just want to make clear that since you have voted down the trust document that was before you, you cannot reconsider that same document. So it would have to change in some way unless there was a motion to reconsider. And I think I need some clarification in regards to the direction to myself and the attorney, and if there is going to be an appropriation so that we can retain the services of a bond attorney to get their recommendation.
Okay. Councilmember French.
I would motion that we would be allowed to bring this trust document back. I would also suggest that the call for legal services be charged to the city council line item budget, since that's who's requesting.
I think what we can, are there any other council comments? Councilmember Barnes.
It hasn't passed yet, so it shouldn't be charged to us. We didn't do it yet. They didn't.
Okay.
We don't know.
Okay. Are there any other comments from council? Basically, what I'm looking for, and I'll just be very frank, the trust has been in existence for 20 years. It expired. It was set up in 1996. Okay. We've known about it. I've known about it for 6 years since I've been on council, and we've discussed it at previous times over the past 2 years, or if not 3 years. And yet, there's not been any kind of formal document to say, okay, these are the pros and cons, these are the options that we have, because if other cities are not doing it this way, they're doing it some way. And right now, from the information the council has received, that has not been made clear to us. So that's what I'm asking. I'm asking before we make a vote to set up an irrevocable trust that's going to be around for another potentially 12 years, that we have clear information about what we're voting on. Go ahead.
So that speaks to your mistrust,
No.
to be punny, of the trust. That you don't think that it's the best way to keep this fund. Because if you were satisfied with it, we would have approved it. But you are not satisfied with it, some aspect of the trust document.
No, I think what it is I wasn't around 20 years when they did it, and
We've had 3 months to discuss this.
well, but the thing, I've asked for 3 months for the information, for the same information. So I think what we're asking for is a memo to say is this the best way to handle the situation, and if it's not, what other municipalities have done and what other options are available to us, including if we were to go a different way, would that cost the city more, right? But see, even that has not really been fleshed out. So that's what I'm asking for. Go ahead, I'm sorry.
I don't think a month is gonna be enough time. If you wanna retain a bond attorney, first we're gonna have to locate somebody. We're in the middle of the holiday season. To be totally frank, I don't think a month's gonna be enough time.
Okay.
Because even if we find somebody tomorrow with the holiday, they may not have time to review it, and I can't guarantee that a third-party attorney will be able to fit us into their schedule in the next 30 days.
And that's completely understandable, and I'm cool with that. I guess, you know, we've talked about it for 3 years, so I'm sure 2 months is not a big deal to make sure it's done right. Are there any other question or comments or concerns from council? Okay, so there was a motion and a second to, well, It was for 1 month, so I guess with some,
Can we review it again in that month? Because maybe you can get the information within 30 days. I mean, can we do that? You don't know, till you try.
I mean, you can always bring it back to vote on it sooner, but I guess my point is,
till December
don't
10th.
constrict us to 30 days because
Okay,
just
absolutely.
speaking, you know, as an attorney, if somebody came in to my office like this time of year and said, I need this complex
Okay.
thing looked at, by the way, it's due at the end of the month, I would say, you know what, you're taking a back seat behind my other clients because you're the last one through the door.
Okay.
So,
Councilmember French.
I would like to revise my motion to state that we will extend the trust document for 3 months.
You don't have a motion.
1 second.
Thought I had,
So,
Cheryl made the comment asking for a motion to,
so what happened was there was the initial motion, and then there was a motion to not go with that, so we
right,
respected and went through that vote,
right.
and that
And then
failed.
Cheryl spoke and asked.
Then, well, basically, their motion's still on the table, so they'd have to.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, so
You're right,
either,
there's a second layer, I missed the second layer. I
so
apologize.
either, would you want to amend your motion
I would.
to basically take into consideration the concerns of the city attorney?
Absolutely.
And how much time would you want to, 2 or 3?
60
at least
days.
60 days.
Okay.
Okay,
I would amend my motion to, that we approve a 2-month, 60-day extension
okay.
with regard to the, approving the Albion Trust Agreement.
Okay, or retaining counsel. Are there any other questions or concerns? Okay, seeing none, roll call vote, please.
Councilmember Lawler,
Yes.
Spicer,
Yes.
French,
Yes,
Barnes,
No,
Reed, Brown,
Yes.
and Mayor Brown.
Yes.
what's the over-under before you forget?
You know, it's hard to break a 6-year habit.
Yeah, that's right.
You know. Agenda item H,
Sorry, I think our city manager was asking for a motion to allow for the bringing back of the original revised trust document, should we decide that it is in fact the best option.
So we just couldn't bring it back on
No, 'cause it's
without,
dead.
Not without a motion to reconsider it again.
Right.
think that's
so
what-
I'm-
that's fine. So, we have a motion, is there a second?
I support it.
Moved and seconded, any discussion or comments, questions or concerns? Okay, roll call vote, please.
Okay. So yours is actually to bring the amended trust agreement back.
To allow for the trust agreement to be brought back.
Yeah.
Should it be determined to be the best option.
And to charge the city council's budget.
And to charge the city council's budget.
That was your original.
That was my original.
I think we should,
You called for it.
well, I think we need to discuss that discussion. So, I mean, we can have that vote, but I think those need to be separate, so, but that's your motion, so. Councilmember Barnes.
I have a comment on the issue itself in the bringing it back. If it's not broke, why fix it? You know, we as a council, prior to the new members coming in, we went over this thoroughly. Chuck gave us a presentation. We decided to adjust the term limits, and he stated himself, being there in the beginning, that his statement was like mine: if it's not broke, why fix it? I don't see the real issue with this. What I see is an investigation into the handling of the money. It's all been accounted for. We've been audited 6 years, and there's never been a problem with the trust. When we came in, you, I, then, and former Mayor Domingo, we had our concerns, and our concerns were answered. So what's the concern now with the trust money?
We've already voted to extend that for 60 days and look at that, so that's not the motion that we're addressing right now.
Yes, it is. We're talking about, the day we had it on here, the motion to approve it, as it was revised, and now today you're saying you want to extend it another 30 days when we were here to vote on the approval or denial of it. And just in my comments, I'm saying, what's the problem?
So I
already
think what's taking place is it's been extended for 60 days. So the motion on the floor right now is to reconsider the revision that was placed before us. If we determine, after doing our due diligence and actually doing the checking we should have done, that's the best way to go.
And within that discussion, I said, what's the problem with the trust?
Well, I think the intention is to actually have a full understanding of,
Okay, that's good enough.
so we have a motion. So we have a motion before us to reconsider, but then also to attach it to council budget. Councilmember.
So if I can explain, since we know that our city manager is able to move funds from one part of the general fund to another to account for shortcomings and windfalls. So my asking that this be charged to council is to state to the public that in fact, this cost, we are adding to our budget. So that's all I'm saying. It's a symbolic gesture. Because I think that we've had 3 months to think about this. And we keep delaying. We keep delaying. Because I think some of us think that there might be a better option. I don't see, I agree with Councilman Barnes in that it isn't broken. We've made modifications to take away some of the issues that were raised over the last 5 years. We fixed those issues. This bond is secure. This fund has $1 million in it. If the city needs resources for a project or for some capital improvement somewhere, we simply ask the trust committee we write a proposal to them and they give it to us. We were able to pay for computers and infrastructure in the city hall. We've replaced all kinds of things with that trust fund. I don't see anything wrong with it. And so this just to me is just adding time, delaying making a decision for fear of making the wrong decision. And I don't think in this case that it's the wrong decision. So that's why that symbolic labeling.
So I think the one thing I would mention is, so I understand the optics, but the other thing is, we don't know how much it's gonna cost until we ask, so I don't think it's wise for us
Lawyers
to.
are about $200 an hour.
I don't think it's.
Well, I can speak to
Go ahead.
that to a certain
Okay.
extent.
Okay.
That is true, and that is on the low end, but what the council should be aware is bond work is very, very specific work. There's probably 6 or 7 firms in the state that maybe have 1 or 2 attorneys that do that. And I guarantee you, they're a lot more than $200 an hour. You're gonna see firms like, I believe the firm that did our trust the first time around was Dickinson Wright.
Major.
So, it's going to be expensive.
So, Councilmember Brown.
I just wanted to say, Councilmember French, I respect your assurance that everything's okay, and you've had 3 months, but I myself have had less than 3 weeks on council. So I think after this due diligence, I will be as confident one way or the other as you are. So that's what I'm looking forward to.
And I understand that and respect that, sorry.
Oh, Councilmember French, I'm sorry.
I respect that as well. I just know that it's expensive. And in a city trying to maximize its resources, I just don't see it's worth the money. I just don't. So that's my opinion, so.
Okay, yep. So the motion before us is to reconsider and to tag it on to the budget for council. If there are no other questions, roll call vote, please.
Councilmember Spicer,
Yes.
French,
Yes?
Barnes,
No,
Reed. Yes. Brown,
No.
no. Lawler
Yes.
and Mayor Brown.
No. Uh,
Huh?
It's dead. 4-3.
He had, yeah, 4-3.
Okay, great. It passed. The motion
No, it
passed.
didn't.
Wait.
It did not pass.
It did. You
It did.
you
Yeah.
had 4 yeses
Yeah.
and 3 noes.
Okay.
Yeah. So the motion's passed. Agenda item H, discussion approval letter of understanding between the City of Albion, the Albion Department of Public Safety, and the Police Officers Association of Michigan. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Support.
Moved and supported. I'd like to ask the manager to explain that one.
I'll ask Chief Kip to come up and address this.
Okay.
Chief Scott Kipp, Albion Public Safety. What I'm trying to do here is change just the title of our lieutenant position to deputy chief. Since we've been public safety now for over 30 years, we formerly had a deputy chief, a captain, lieutenants, but we've cut back over the years, and we've cut those higher positions and left the lower positions in place. The problem with that is the position of lieutenant is different in firefighting than it is in law enforcement, and because we do two different jobs, it makes it difficult for that position to operate in both those sectors, and people understand what their level of responsibility is. The only position that really exists in both police and firefighting that's equal in that level is deputy chief. And so they would carry the weight of the deputy chief in those situations where I need them to be my representative. And so that's really the need for doing this. There's no pay change in it. It's just a change in title. And because it's in the contract, we have to amend the contract to change the title.
And the, excuse me. Council comments. Are there any council comments or concerns? Councilmember Lawler.
So deputy chief is like your assistant?
Second in line of command, not necessarily my assistant, but we have officers, sergeants, and then lieutenants currently in the chain of command, and then the chief. We would eliminate the lieutenant name and make that deputy chief. It just raises them up in the chain of command when it comes to dealing with people outside of our agency, really is what it's for. So.
Thank you.
Are there any other council questions or concerns or comments? The union is okay with it?
What?
The union's okay with it?
Yeah, oh yeah, they've already signed it, they've agreed to it, so.
Okay.
Yeah.
And there's no pay change, like you said?
No, right, there's no change in pay, it's just title change.
Okay. I mean, she stepped out, but are any other comments? Okay, thank you. At this time, I'd like to ask for,
Oh, one quick question.
oh,
Chief, how many?
Councilmember Spicer.
Thank you, Mayor. How many officers with that effect, lieutenants with that name change effect?
Currently, there's Lieutenant Johnson, and then as of the first of the year, Detective Sergeant Kern will be promoted to that position as well. So there'll be 2. There'll be a deputy chief for fire and a deputy chief for police.
Thank you.
Seeing no other,
She went to the restroom.
okay. Seeing no other comments, roll call vote, please.
Councilmember Lawler,
Yes.
Spicer,
Yes.
French,
Yes.
Barnes,
Yes.
Reed, Brown, and Mayor Brown.
Yes. Agenda item I, request approval resolution 2006-71, a resolution to approve Department of Public Safety lease of Chevy Cruze.
So move.
Support.
Moved and supported. Would you like to address that?
Just checking on some facts first. This approval is to get another vehicle for our detectives, which will be paid for by the IRS through our task force officer program that we have with them. Detective Sergeant Kern has had a vehicle paid for by the IRS now for 7 years. We lease it, we pay the initial bill, and they pay us back for it. We've been able to work it out now with his change in title and with Detective Wygant doing more work and going to be working with the task force that they're going to pay for her car as well. So this just allows us to get another car for her to use. Currently, she's driving a 1999 Jeep with over 180,000 miles on it that needs a new engine. So this will be great for us because we get a vehicle with no cost. So,
Are there any questions or comments or concerns from council? Councilmember Barnes.
I would ask that, council support this measure. We've done this over the years. The vehicle pays for itself through the IRS and the work of the officers, who are working with the federal government.
One thing I would like to add, the only concern I've had over the years on this is that if for some reason the IRS were to cancel the task force officer program, we would be liable for the remainder payments on the vehicle. But this vehicle is rather low, and like I said, we've been doing this for 7 years with no problem. I just want to make sure everybody's aware of that, just in case they did that to us and they could do it because of funding in a year, so.
Councilmember Spicer.
Thank you. It is a new vehicle, am I correct?
Yes, it's a leased vehicle, so, you know.
So maintenance is covered and.
Right, exactly.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any additional comments from council? Okay, seeing none, I'd like to ask for a roll call vote.
Councilmember Spicer,
Yes.
French,
Yes.
Barnes,
Yes.
Reed,
Yes.
Brown,
Yes.
Lawler,
Yes.
and Mayor Brown.
Yes. Agenda item J, request to approve resolution 2016-78 fund balance policy.
So move.
Motion,
Support.
moved and supported. I'd like to ask the manager to comment on it.
Mayor and council, some of you may recall that after our last audit, the auditors had made a recommendation that we actually adopt a general fund policy, and they provided suggested language in regards to that. So I provided that to you, and essentially what it does is designate, in terms of your fund balance, what's spendable, what is not, what's designated for particular projects, and that's in keeping with best practices, as well as the Governmental Accounting Standards Board, JSB. And in particular, it should be noted that it spells out that for our funds, that we are seeking to have at least a general fund balance of 15 to 20% of expenditures, which is within the standards that are established for most governmental entities.
Are there any questions, comments, or concerns from council? I think it's a good idea. Basically, has to do with, we talk about a lot of times, fund balance. I think it's a great idea, and I think council should support it. So if there are no other comments, roll call vote, please.
Councilmember French,
Yes.
Barnes,
Yes.
Reed, Brown,
Yes.
Lawler,
Yes.
Spicer,
Yes.
and Mayor Brown.
Yes. You know, I'm gonna have to get a penny.
Pay for that lawyer.
Yeah, yeah. Agenda item K, consideration approval of 2017 fee schedule.
So moved.
Moved,
Support.
moved and supported. Discussion, the manager can explain.
This is the annual fee schedule that is adopted in conjunction with your fiscal year budget. The changes are noted in the highlights, and those represent the rent for the parks for events and tournaments, to actually have a rental for the full-day use of our parks of $100 per day for residents and $200 for non-residents. The band usage fees, there's a new vehicle, so those costs are increased. So that's reflected in the per-day rental, $50 per day for nonprofits, $100 for for-profit organizations. We had mentioned, and we will need to address in the coming year, what we want to do with the perpetual care costs relative to the cemetery and the ongoing maintenance for that. We will probably need to institute some type of policy and fee structure, but it's not represented in this current recommendation. And then for the use of the baseball fields for the night use, to increase that because of the increased costs related to lighting the parks. So I think that was essentially all of it. I do want to make note that Cornerstone, who has been providing our permits, is now named Safe Built. At the present time, there are no changes in the services or costs associated with the permits. However, later this year, the standard, I believe, is $2 per permit increase that is in their contract will be instituted.
Are there, oh, Councilmember French.
So the very first fee is $50 for a comprehensive master plan 2017. Full color, bound, plastic cover.
If we're going to print it out, we're going to have a fee for it. It's available electronically online.
Right. I'm just saying, 60 pages. So,
That's what was there previously, so I just kept it.
okay.
Not that I'm opposed ever to raising fees. But that was what was there long before I came.
So, yeah.
Well, that was-
Okay, it's online, so that's good.
Yes.
That's fine.
Any other council questions? Councilmember Lawler.
Yes, did we ever, establish a payment if we were or were not going to, like if, to help take care of the cemetery plots for people that have them out there?
That was what I
Didn't
just
we
mentioned,
just-
the perpetual care.
Okay.
That has not been determined yet. We'll have to establish a new policy and rate structure for that.
Okay,
Gotcha.
okay.
It says TBD, to be
Yeah,
determined.
okay, thank you.
Any additional questions? Okay. Councilmember French.
I would just comment, thank you, Cheryl. We're making revenue and we're meeting our costs in these arenas, so I'm glad you're spending the time on it. Any income that we can obtain from these things that's to the positive instead of losing money is much appreciated.
And we try to be reasonable because we do realize it has an impact on the user as well, so we do need to cover our costs.
Okay, seeing no one has any other additional comments. Roll call vote, please.
Councilmember Barnes,
Yes?
Reed, Brown,
Yes.
Lawler,
Yes?
Spicer,
Yes.
French,
Yes.
and Mayor Brown.
Yes. Agenda item L, which is discussion of Austin Avenue and the Albion malleable iron site.
That's an item that I have. I'm strongly supporting the comprehensive plan, the phase one, the goal to retain and attract jobs to Albion by supporting business, growth, development, and attraction. I believe that the malleable iron site is necessary to sustain the middle-class laborer of Albion, specifically the middle class and the lower middle class. I'm hoping that we can bring this plan in where education level would be people with GEDs, high school, and some junior college. Attracting the low socioeconomic status individuals in our city and in the region, persons with transportation challenges, and some of the head of the households. To maintain and obtain this goal, we need to work with our EDC board members, whom are appointed by you, this Albion City Council. The comprehensive plan is only a 5-year plan, and it will be revised. And I'm hoping within this 5-year period that this council works with the president of the EDC and the board members tangibly by attending the meetings at 7:30 a.m. The next meeting will be at Albion College, January Tuesday the 14th. I believe, if I'm correct, but you can check it, please. The mayor has an automatic seat on that board, and your direction to the board members is surmountable in obtaining and attracting a manufacturing plant. I'm looking for this council to stand by their campaign statement, bringing jobs to Albion. That would be workforce development. And through our EDC, which is our entity that does the legwork, we need a marketing strategy to attract developers and manufacturing companies. It would bring a tax base to the city. We would have transplant people to the city, those commuters. The area would need to be in the redevelopment-ready community or a target market area or a Renaissance zone to attract the funding. Right now, the Albion workforce is leaving our town daily, traveling 10 to 30 miles just one way. The Jackson, where they're making compressors, Jonesville, where they're making auto parts, and the Marshall, where they're making mufflers. We can sustain a facility. However, we need to do the due diligence in getting into not only the print on paper, which we have done with the phase one, we need to attend EDC meetings. We need to select board members who have this common goal. Right now, great things are happening in Albion. It's very progressive. However, we definitely need to sustain our middle class here in Albion. Otherwise, we'll lose them. If we don't have a manufacturing plan here for these people I've named, the low socioeconomic status, the transportation problems, we will lose them. By having a 300 man and woman plant at the old site, we could bring people in. We could sustain some of these communities. I believe each one of these council members is an Albion high school graduate, other than myself from French, and they're saying Wildcats for life. Therefore, I'm asking these Wildcats to support this endeavor. Move me out of the way. Move your personalities away from me. I recognize y'all don't dig me, but this is not about Maurice Barnes. This is about this progressing in this city, moving this city forward, and having the demographics that we state that we want within the city. And we must work with our president, Amy from the EDC, and our board members, because if we don't attend these meetings, we may be left out of the loop, because if we're not at the table, our conversation may not be there. And I'm advocating, I'll be gone next week. I'll be back home. So I'm hoping that you would just move your personalities out of the way and look at the big picture. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember French.
Thank you, Mayor. I wholeheartedly agree with most of what Councilman Barnes is saying. However, it's quite clear that the old Harvard site has millions of dollars of contamination to that site. And so retracting a business to that site and asking them, without help, to fund the cleanup, which would be required before they could build anything new on that site, is a little short-sighted. So I would say that part of what we do with our comprehensive master plan to help make that event occur, where we can bring back something to that facility, is that we have to work with our city manager to help get the property classified as a Superfund site, to find federal funding for the cleanup of that site, and all of that takes a lot of time. But I would encourage that as we move forward on that site, that's step one. I mean, Brembo didn't move to Albion because the Harvard site was inappropriate. There was a $7 million contamination bill that they were unwilling to pay to build there when they can build on pristine farmland out of town. So,
And I think going forward, and I'm sure Councilmember Barnes would agree, I think we'd all agree, is that, with EDC, it's also EDC, it's Tifa, and it's Brownfield Authority. And that's right up the alley of Brownfield, the Brownfield Redevelopment Authority. So I think that's something that I don't think any of us would oppose, and that is necessary to make it a viable option. So I think we're all on the same page, and the meeting you were referring to, I think, is on the 12th.
Okay.
I don't see, how do you say it? I mean, you're right, people do leave the community to work every day, and so if there's things that we can do to diversify employment in town, it's a great idea, and I don't think anybody on council opposes it. So I'll let you have the final word, and then we can go forward.
Councilman French, I must address the statements that you made. Some of them are totally incorrect. The federal government, the Environmental Protection Agency, contacted our former city manager, Bishop. EPA stated if the city of Albion found a viable employer who wanted to move on that Malibu site, they would clean that entire area up for free through grant funding. Secondly, Brembo had two other statements they made. It would cost too much money to remove all of the cement that was laid in the Malibu site. And secondly, they felt the geographical area was too small. That's were the reasons they gave us that they didn't attract the site. So I don't want any misnomers out there, please. I did a lot of research on this, and we have the ability to do this. It's up to us to do this if we want to maintain the middle class on that side of town, and it would bring in people from the region to work. And in my presentation, I want to put Austin Avenue on there. If there was some type of strip mall, anything that this council or the citizens, through different surveys and meetings, decided they want, they can have. When I travel home on the back roads and I get through Hastings and Middleville, I see all type of little small strip malls that would fit perfectly.
For the sake of time, because you have a presentation to go with this?
Yes.
Okay, so I'm gonna defer to Danielle because of, for the sake of time. Thank you.
Yeah, because you had requested a presentation on Austin Avenue where it's at right now, as well as the malleable site. So just to give a little bit of information on it, so we are identifying this as one of the priority redevelopment sites. As we know, it's experienced a lack of investments, and it's also one of the main entrances to the city. And so it is listed not only in the city's comprehensive plan as a priority redevelopment site, but also as one of the corridors that the EDC will focus its attention on within its strategic plan. And one thing that we should look at is focusing on density as well, is what the EDC has stated, because it is a priority redevelopment site. Development won't be pushed on it if it doesn't make sense to avoid sprawl. But at the same time, what makes sense for redevelopment in that area is going to be largely determined by residents along the Austin Avenue corridor. And we're going to have to accommodate what that intended future use will be through zoning changes. So I put this presentation for you just so that you would, so we understand what the next steps would be in order to, if ever see another plant on that site again over on Austin Avenue or on the, at the malleable site. So some of the challenges though, so there's the zoning and the lot sizes. If we look at the map, which I believe, so that's just, larger view, and then we've got the malleable site. So if you see where the light blue is, that's all zoned business, and then you've got the lighter gray that's all zoned industrial north of Austin Avenue. And you can see the lot sizes are quite small, so we're gonna have to look at, the next thing that we'll have to look at is whether to rezone those lots or to look at maybe combining lots and whatnot, because with the way it's zoned right now with the current lot sizes, there are a number of residential properties on both of those, in both of those areas where it's zoned industrial as well as business. So let's say, for example, a home is damaged and it's gonna cost more than 51% of it to rehabilitate the home. The insurance won't pay out because of the way that it's currently zoned, because it's not zoned residential, but you've got a residential unit on there, which is fine until something bad happens. So that could put people out of their homes and really, be devastating for a family. Let's see, so that's just a little bit closer view of those areas right there that I was talking about. So the next steps regarding that, we'd have to look at doing a community vision for that area. So we'd like to work with residents and business owners to determine what would be the most useful and most desired use for the properties along Austin Avenue, as opposed to just speculating ideas. Actually working with community members in Precinct 1 and I believe Precinct 2 beneath it there, or just south of it, where we need to be looking at what residents would actually like to see there, what would be most useful in that area. And so essentially, as you said, Councilman Barnes collaborating with the EDC, the City of Albion, elected officials as yourselves, and other community leaders to actually develop that strategic plan for this area. And I would imagine that would look something like what the comprehensive planning process looked like, though on a more focus, in a focus area. And then a little bit, I did some digging into the malleable site just to see where that's at right now. It helps to know what you don't know. So where is it at right now? According to county records, it's owned by the Calhoun County Land Bank. We're still trying to determine whether or not that's accurate, because they only update that every 6 months. And so currently, there's also American Colloid is operating on the site, and so we're not necessarily sure of what that arrangement is, whether there's a lease agreement with the owner of the property, or if American Colloid owns a piece of that property. So what we need to do is look at trying to, figure out what that arrangement is, update the ownership in the county records, and determine the arrangement between the owner and American Colloid. But also, too, the other thing is that the Albion EDC, Calhoun County, and the City of Battle Creek are working together to file a joint application to the EPA for environmental assessment funds. And so there are multiple funds throughout the county that they're applying for, and the malleable site is the one that's the Albion piece of this. So that is something that's currently ongoing. I'm gonna do a little bit more homework and see what else we can find out about the property so that we can move forward with it with a development plan. So that's really all of the information that I have on it myself, but I hope that it helps get an idea where we're at.
Thank you very much. The
Thank
last
you.
presentation did great too.
Councilmember Spies.
Danielle, with regard to those buildings on
Yes.
Austin Avenue,
Yes.
what's the status? Scheduled to be torn down or what?
Are you referring to some of the land bank owned buildings or the,
I'm assuming they're land bank owned because I don't think they're occupied, I don't know.
there's, right, I'm not entirely sure of the ownership of each property, but there are a number of businesses, residential units, foreclosed units.
So I'm specifically
So-
talking about the property that's between Albion Street and, what's that, John Street?
Yeah, the 600 block of
Yeah,
Albion.
yeah, what's-
Right, and from my understanding, I'm gonna have to do a little bit more work looking into that. From what I understand, that would have been more
Councilmember Barnes.
businesses there. Yes, if you can answer that better.
John, Tracy and I, John can speak on it. We've been working on it
Oh,
for several
okay.
years. We can do it in the spring.
Great.
John Tracy, Director of Planning, Building and Code. I believe probably one building you're referring to specifically would be, I believe it's 608, the one with the yellow fence around it.
Right, and, yeah, all goes along.
Okay. That particular property is going to wind up going to our city attorney. We've tried to work with the property owner who currently lives in Hawaii. They did pay for taking care of some of the debris around there and putting the fence up, but we have not had any further contact in the last couple months. They were to have come back to Michigan and hired a contractor, which did not happen, to demo the property. The other properties on that block have been cited. Some have been brought back up to minimum requirement, which would be 610 and 612. 612 actually is had more work done to it than the others. There is another structure that appears to look like a house. We have a gentleman that's been working on that for a number of years. That will be going forward. There's a structure there. It's going to be probably 614 Austin. Looks a little bit like a house. It's actually a B1 property, so a house could not be brought back up in that particular area. It'd have to be a business. That particular structure has been cited for a number of different items, and once again, we've tried to work with the people on the block. We've had some success with a few of the buildings, but that is another one that we have not. So the bottom line is whatever type of order we get on these structures for demolition, as we still wind up having to come up with the money to have them demoed if the property owners do not demo the property. And you're probably looking at the 608, the size of the property. If we have to have it demoed, and before it would have to be able to be demoed, you're looking at between about $1,250 to $2,500 just for an asbestos assessment. And then with the cost of the building, you're probably looking at minimum between $8,000 to $10,000 that we would have to come up with, since it's evident the property owner is not. So that's one of the big problems that we face in trying to get buildings down, even when we get court orders. Same thing with the Dalrymple School. We could have had that taken down, but we'd had to come up with probably a minimum of 400,000 to 500,000. So it's not just, I mean, we can get legal action to go against these properties, but it's finding money to take them down. So far, most the properties that are coming down in the city are those that reverted to the Calhoun County Treasurer and Land Bank, and fortunately, they've been able to apply for and obtain some hefty grants for that. That's where you see all these buildings coming down. That's through the Calhoun County Land Bank and the grant money they've received. It's not City of Albion money itself.
Yeah, I think one of the issues, you know, we appreciate the land bank support, but it doesn't go into commercial buildings,
Is
so,
hard,
yeah.
it's hard to find anything on commercial.
So-
And they are looking. Same thing with Dalrymple School. It's just not something you find very often at all.
So I just want to thank you, thank Danielle, and thank Councilmember Barnes for bringing it up, and it's something that the council is going to be addressing going forward, so thank you all. At this time, we'll move on to agenda item M, the city manager report.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. First, I want to thank Danielle Nelson for all of the work she was doing, not only on this report, but in regards to the comprehensive plan in general. She and all of the AmeriCorps Vista members have been truly instrumental in bringing forward the product that you adopted today.
And Roslyn.
And Rosalind Jones as well. We did receive word that she's ill, so please keep her in prayer. Because she did a phenomenal job in leading us in this process. And I'm very pleased that Amy DePraise is here with us, the new president CEO. And in regards to some of your concerns and moving Albion forward, we are on the map and we're getting inquiries all the time from businesses that are interested in locating here. But one of the things that is imperative is that they understand that we have a stable form of government that is also highly functional. And quite frankly, I'm concerned because the message we just sent in regards to the health services for a community that are direly needed. And I understand you have to exercise your own due diligence when it comes to making decisions. But this happened quickly, and it was of no one's fault that the grant announcement came with a very short response time. And if you understand grants, the amount of intensity in terms of the research and to put together a sound package that someone is going to look on positively, there was a lot of hours put into the document. And in an ideal world, we would have had more time to involve more people at the table earlier on. But a message that is now being sent is that the Albion City Council voted down $100,000 for planning and almost $1 million or more for the implementation of a health services network in our community. And as city manager, I don't know how to explain that to people. When I first received the grant announcement and they asked if the city of Albion would be willing to be on board, and we had one of the volunteers from Albion College, because I didn't have time to read the whole grant document. If you've read grant documents, that's a notion unto itself. And I just asked her to highlight some of the key points in the grant application. And one of them was that you had to designate administrative staff for the oversight and coordination of that. Seeing that, and any of you who know me know that if I see money for Albion, I'm grabbing for it. And that's exactly what I did. I'm sure that one of the other organizations at the table who were already having the initial conversations were planning on using that to supplement their own staff. And I'm not ashamed to say that I stepped up and I said, I think Albion needs to be at the table, and I think one of our administrative positions needs to be one of the coordinators, and we needed to have access to that funding. So that's what you just voted down. Having said that, and I apologize because I'm disturbed, but regards to 327 Haven Road, this is another one of our unusual circumstances with property, in that half of it's on city property and half of it's on the property owner's property. It now needs to be demolished. The county, as part of the grant funding that they have for demolitions, can demolish it, but only if it's all on one piece of property. So essentially, we have to divide, split, combine it, let the county take it over to get it demolished, and then they'll deed it back over to us, and we'll make it a part of the Rieger Park. But I'm just advising you in advance, because this needs to happen before the end of the year. And so we are doing the internal administrative process, but I didn't want you to be unaware that this was happening. The holiday party was a phenomenal success. We had a record turnout. Everyone's very much appreciative, especially of Councilmember Lynn Reed, who did so much of the cooking. There's a song out, but I'm not going to sing it, but we had turkey and cornbread and macaroni and cheese and
Beans, tomatoes.
coconut cake and string beans and corn pudding and salad. Stacy's chocolate balls, which are a big hit. And we just had a wonderful time. There were giveaways and prizes and games, and we really, as a community staff, our team Albion, we needed that moment to just sit down, break bread, and enjoy each other in a non-business environment. So thank you. Councilmember Sonia Brown was there helping out tremendously. Marcola Lawler was there, Andy French, Councilmember Maurice Barnes, of course, you were there. Allian's sweet potato pie was good too. Oh, banana pudding. So yeah, we had a good time. So thank you, everyone, and our attorney, Cullen, thank you so much for contributing to that program and making it possible for our employees to enjoy. And Mayor and Council, thank you for giving us the 2 hours off so that we could have that time with an extended lunch to just celebrate all the good things that are going on. And I just want to note that City Hall will be closed for the holidays. That will be Christmas Day and Eve. So that's Friday, December 23rd, and Monday, December 26th, as well as New Year's Eve and Day, and that's Friday, December 30th, and Monday, June 2nd. January, June 2nd, 2017. Your next council meeting will be on Tuesday, not a Monday, January 3rd.
Okay, future agenda items, agenda item M in, are there any, Councilmember French?
Like an update from our city manager regarding the single hauler process.
Any other future agenda items? Okay. Everyone is here. Citizens' comments. Citizens addressing the city council should limit their comments to no more than 5 minutes. Proper decorum is required.
Nydia Wolf, 409 Irwin Avenue. Former Executive Director of the Albion Healthcare Alliance. When I was working under that organization, I always talked about the eastern end of Calhoun County. Battle Creek, Marshall always got everything. Albion, Homer, we didn't get anything, or very little. And you folks just turned down a $100,000 grant. There's no excuse for that. No excuse. We need that money. We need that type of organization to be working for the future health care of our area. And you just ran it in the ground. Do your homework.
Are there any other citizens' comments this evening? Okay. Seeing none, I would ask for a motion to adjourn.
So move.
So Motion?
Do I have to be the only one? I support that.
Moved and supported. All those in favor of adjourning, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Thank you.
I got a couple things for you to sign.
Okay.
But for the
And I still gotta go down to the bank and do that.